All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our special presentation today, leveraging online engagement to minimize post-orientation melt. My name is Gil Rogers. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Strategic Partnerships here at Platform Q Education. I'm very excited to be joined by my friend and colleague, friend first, colleague second, Mike Garvin, who's our Senior Vice President of Client Strategy and Consulting. Mike, you want to give a little bit of your background and your experience here before we dive into the presentation content today?
Absolutely. Thanks, Gil. Again, my name is Mike Garvin. I'm the Senior Vice President of Client Strategy and Consulting here at Platform Q Education, working really closely with our team here to make sure that all of our partners are implementing and adopting all of the tools and technologies and resources that we have available to build out some great online engagement platforms that they're using throughout the year. So, known Gil for a while, and yeah, excited to present some good examples and good ideas of what schools are doing to all of you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And yeah, I'm excited to share a lot of these ideas, especially given the time of the year. This is part of a series, and if you're watching this presentation, maybe you've watched a couple of our other recent presentations. A few weeks ago, we did a session on bridging your enrollment gaps, getting from May 1st through the fall, right? And there's a lot of strategies and tactics, especially earlier on, if you were short, how you can adjust and start focusing on transfer students and those sorts of things. But the focus of today's presentation is really to think about what do we have in the kind of the bottom of our funnel, and what do we have in our enrollment bucket. How can we keep that bucket filled from now through enrollment and orientations and when students start to arrive on campus? So what we're going to start with is, when we think about and why we have this content and these presentations during this time, is we all know and we understand that May 1 is a mile marker, right? Like, we know that this is a critical time of year when we have data at the top of the funnel that might have made things a little bit harder for us to really understand and understand our models and understand performance throughout the funnel. And post May 1 is really a critical time. So if we think about how we go through the process and how we're focusing on supporting students, we know that there are kind of 4 cornerstone events that we should be focusing on throughout the year when we think about our online engagement strategies. At the top of the funnel, maybe we did something with our online open house, right? Making content discoverable, really driving that demand. Then we would have followed up with things like application workshops to drive completion, right? A student who starts an application doesn't really help us if they don't make it through the recruitment funnel and actually submit their application. Then the next phase we would get into is things like financial aid workshops, driving yield, supporting parents, helping with making those decisions. And then finally, the last piece is, how do we get students who have been through that process to actually enroll on campus? So creating content like current student panels and connecting students with other students and other admitted students, but also helping them develop that sense of community on campus. So what we're going to talk about today is now that we're through those phases of the process and really at that bottom of the funnel, how do we end up getting, or how do we leverage online engagement to minimize melt and boost yield post May 1 deposit, pre-orientation, post-orientation, pre-movement, right? So all those different phases. So a couple of areas we'll talk about is, first, how partners like University of San Diego have reduced summer melt over 50% over a 2-year period and has continued to do that over time. How schools like Towson University are building pre-orientation excitement. How schools like University of Tampa have blown through their yield metrics again. If you've been on these presentations before, we've talked about Tampa on a couple of different presentations on how they've exceeded their yield goals by leaps and bounds. And then finally, thinking through not just traditional undergrad, but also international students, how schools like Azusa Pacific University engaged 40% of their international enrollments ahead of their orientation and really drove students through the rest of the funnel. So with that, I'm going to kind of turn it over to Mike to get us started with that first example when we talk about reducing melt with a summer series. So Mike, you want to tell us a little bit about San Diego?
Absolutely. Thanks, Gil. So University of San Diego, great partner of ours, been with us for a long time. And I really feel like they're a team that works very well with our team. We collaborate quite nicely with them throughout the years, share ideas, brainstorm with each other. But one thing that they've done really well for the last 5, 6, 7 years is their summer series. They do a fantastic job with the goal being to reduce summer melt. So over the last few years, they've hosted a series of events for their deposited students post May 1. They'll go into running sessions about get classes, get down to business, get excited. So they're hosting events on how to register for classes and housing, how to pay the bill, and then the student life, a panel of current students, getting students really fired up before they show up to campus for move-in day. So they're doing this alongside their physical orientations. They're also available to students online. So I think what's really great about this is how they were doing one-off events. Some schools will do one-off events here and there. They come at it, they come into the summer with a great strategy, a great plan on how to stay connected to students across the globe. Not just local students in San Diego or students in Northern California, but truly students across the country and international. So they're doing a tremendous job with us and always have been. They've been a fun partner of ours to work with, at all stages, but I think they're best at the orientation summer series that they're running. So again, they're running these events, really becoming a transformative partner of ours. So it's not just the live content, it's that they're live on a certain date, and then they'll replay that content on demand for 5-6 days after. So students can watch the session live, go back and watch it. If they missed that session on May 7th, they can watch the session on the 8th, 9th, or 10th. So they are so available to their to their incoming students through the platform. So again, they're doing great sessions for students, but I really want to call out their great work with parents. So getting down to business is a session for parents on how to pay the bill, et cetera, but also answering any questions parents have. A huge part of the decision-making process is parents. So they do a really nice job of hosting sessions for parents in particular. So again, covering a wide range of topics here from student services, what to expect at orientation, and then just really supporting the students all throughout the entire funnel there. On the next slide that we want to talk about, I'm going to turn it back over to Gil to talk about some work that he's doing with one of our partners on pre-orientation.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And I think one thing to add on the San Diego piece too is, I don't know if anybody's ever been to San Diego, but San Diego is a beautiful place and a beautiful part of the country. So anything that you're doing, anything that they're doing that's inside a computer lab or inside a lecture hall is going to be counter to helping students when they come to campus actually value and appreciate that time, right? So taking that, any of those, like we said, like Mike said, having those transactional type programs, make those available on demand so that you can have that real exciting experience on campus. And I think what Towson University is doing is something that might be kind of similar at the earlier stages of something that San Diego's done. So San Diego's been doing this for a number of years. Towson is a relatively newer partner, right? So they're kind of building to that type of full-on experience. So what Towson is doing from a focus on orientation phase is they're really using an omni-channel engagement strategy to reach and engage their incoming students and parents. So what they've done is they've said, okay, we know when our new student orientation programs are all summer. And we also know who's signed up for those programs because they register in advance so that we know who's coming to what. And so what can we do to help students get excited about that experience ahead of time to make sure that when they get to campus, they're a little less nervous and they're more open to share that time with the other students who are there and really focus on getting connected. So what they're doing is they're developing first pre-recorded videos that they're going to have available ahead of each orientation session. Then what they do is on the Conduit platform is they're scheduling chats and videos ahead of each orientation week. So they have multiple sessions in a week. They bundle up those students together and invite and segment those invitations and say, hey, Mike Garvin, you're attending orientation on June 14th. We're gonna invite you to view this pre-orientation video, and then also participate in a live chat during a specific time of the day during that time, right? So they segment that list and then have a very thoughtful, led by our strategy team, pre-event email campaign with a direct login link saying, hey, we're going live, we're going to have a live presentation available on this day with a live chat at this time, and a starting student SMS text that's going to go directly to the student via their cell phone at that same time. So then the student can either click the link in their email or tap on the link in the text message and gain access to that video content anytime during that day, and then also have a live chat during that 3 to 6 p.m. time frame during the pre-orientation weeks. So the intent here is to be able to alleviate that stress and anxiety of a student who might be coming to campus for the first time, might be leaving their parents behind for the first time, right? Making that experience as exciting as possible and answering any of the fear-based questions that a student might have before they even get to campus. So hopefully when they get to campus, they're more open and involved in that experience. So I think this is definitely a good example of a segment of what San Diego is doing. But the difference here is that Towson is using a lot of pre-recorded content, so they don't have to ask their team to give the same presentations over and over again. And they're also leveraging multiple channels to promote all of these events, email and text, to that specific student population. So I think it's a pretty unique way to really leverage all of the pieces of the Conduit platform in one specific strategy. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to kick it back to Mike to share a little bit more about one of our long-term partners that's seen a lot of great success, University of Tampa, blowing through their yield metrics. I won't spoil much more than that, Mike. I'll leave it to you to kind of share that story.
Perfect. Thanks, Gil. So, yeah, I think the title of this slide says it all. The University of Tampa, they're blowing away their yield metrics. Great partner of ours. We have a lot of fun working with them. Again, another partner that brainstorms quite well with our team, running ideas by us. We're sharing ideas with them. One thing that they do a really nice job with as well is that continuous engagement. They've always been strong towards the admitted student stage, but this past year, they did a really nice job in the fall for open houses, application workshops, making themselves available to students who can't make it to Tampa. But again, that continuous engagement, they are, filling in the gaps between travel and their deadlines. So again, not everyone can make it to Tampa on that Saturday in September or that admitted student event in April, but they are making themselves available to those students. What I love is when we look at some of the data that we'll see here is that these students are coming from their backyard up here in the Northeast and Boston, out West. They're really capturing everyone across the board there. And when we look at some of the results from the events, on your left, you'll see the heat map of where people logged in last year. They were really focused on the admitted student series last year on the Northeast, and they had the aha moment of students were coming from the Northeast and their backyard in the Southeast. So they did an event last March, 168 attendees, 56% of them enrolled, which was tremendous. So 94 students enrolled at the university, come September from the March event. We asked we ran the same data this year. So they ran a couple of events this March. They did an event middle of March for admitted students again, replayed that content. Again, they replayed the information. There was a great session, so why not use it again? They logged in live to chat. Between the two events, they saw 588 attendees between live and that replay. And from that, as of May 1, the data that we have there is 400 students have deposited as of May 1. So it was a 69.3% of the attendees from their online admitted student events deposited. Tremendous number there and efficient. So when you look at the heat map here, where the red is, this casts a wide net. This is an expensive trip to go host open houses in these areas or admitted student events in these areas. So they did a great job of really supporting their travel, filling in the gaps, and also making themselves available. So again, these numbers are tremendous here from what we've seen. And when we go a step further now, after May 1st, Tampa kind of followed a little bit of what the University of San Diego does. Again, we're sharing best practices. So they hosted an event for their students post May 1. So I believe it was May 7th or 8th that they ran an event for those who have deposited. And they had 301 live attendees on the day of, and in the next 6 days where the video was looping on demand, and they promoted that to the students, they saw another 218. So they've had 519 deposited students attending a session on how to register for courses. So again, a great example of a school working with our team and really coming up with this strategic series to stay engaged with students throughout the funnel, especially from the March through May cycle. And we have some great events lined up for them coming up as well. Gil, anything to add on Tampa?
No, I think the only thing I would add is that this kind of speaks to when you train your student audience a little bit, right? You mentioned last year that Tampa did their admitted student event in May, or in April rather, which is great, or March. I can't even talk right now. But the opportunity is once they had that event, like you said, they had that aha moment of, this is something that we need to be doing throughout the cycle, right? So they added programs in the fall as their follow-up to travel. They added programs to re-engage students throughout the process. And so once the students kind of see and expect online programming to be part of their engagement with the institution, they're more open to participating in those programs, which is why you see that huge lift year over year in those March admitted student events going to such a big part of their incoming class. And so that just kind of success breeds success in that respect, right? The more programming that you're able to integrate into your overall program, the more expected and valued it becomes by the student audience. So then it becomes more, you start seeing more attendance as these things build on each other.
Great. Last school we want to kind of give a quick overview on is a school, whose focus is ensuring international enrollments arrive. So we do a lot of really nice work throughout the year with Azusa Pacific University. So another one of our longtime clients who has done great work with us, and Azusa uses us well throughout the year as well. And their international students in particular know the Conduit platform as their platform at Azusa. So again, no platform queue, no real Conduit branding. They have been inviting students to the Azusa Pacific platform from inquiry to application to admit to enroll. This is their platform to stay connected. So one of the things that Azusa shared with us last year is that roughly 40% of their enrolled international students came through the platform at some point. Which was tremendous. And what I really love about this is Azusa is a great team to work with. We're now expanding and doing some work on the domestic side. Because again, this is a university branded platform and you can invite any audience to it. So they've been really successful with the international side of the house. And again, to see 40% of their enrolled students choose this as one of their modes of communication tells a great story. That Azusa is available for students, whether they are in China, Brazil, or Europe. They're really making themselves available to those students on this platform. Again, they're seeing some nice sessions coming up this summer as well on pre-orientation, pre-departure, what to expect when you arrive on campus. So even those last-minute questions students will have that have used the platform for the year are still invited to sessions to calm any nerves, on the platform, answer any questions on the platform from a panel of current students and the international team at Azusa. One thing that kind of just came to me of these schools that I mentioned, San Diego, Tampa, and Azusa, they are all universities that use their student body really well. Their current students, student ambassadors. When you use those students in any messaging, it brings a level of authenticity that prospective students or enrolling students really appreciate and really connect with. So the questions are great, the conversations are real. So just something to think about when we see all this success here. It's not about coming up with the perfect slide deck to go through. It's having that authenticity of current students and international officers or admissions officers working together to answer questions. So that's a common thread that we've seen with all these schools here. Again, they're all great to work with, brainstorming, collaborating with, but again, using the best practices of using current students and ambassadors has been great for all of them. And so, Gil, anything to add to those?
No, I think, makes perfect sense, right? And if you think about the value that students put in their overall experience, right? They trust the perspective of current students. So put that voice at the forefront of your marketing and your communications, and that includes your video content, right? So I think that's a great point. And as you're developing your strategies, figuring out the best ways to include that voice throughout is going to be a great way, particularly at the yield phase, which is what we're talking about now, where seniors who are going to be arriving on campus in the fall are really looking for every opportunity they can to build a connection.
Great. And as far as next steps here, what we want to do is make sure that you're connecting with your enrollment strategies here, with your team here at Platform Q, whether it's myself, whether it's Shayna or Greg or Tyler or Ashley or anyone, let's start collaborating. And we want you to start looking at your current plans and identifying any gaps. Is there one stage of the funnel that is a little more, there's more of a glaring gap than others? Talk to us. We are working with a lot of universities that have probably had the same gaps. We can help fill those gaps, whether it be from how a big trend we're seeing now is people who are traveling in the fall already have an online engagement events to re-engage everyone that they met in their fall travel, whether it's domestic or international. So there's that gap between meeting them in fall travel and application deadline. Let's fill in that gap. Establish programs that can be developed immediately and strategically, work with our team on that. And the other element too is leverage our team. We know everyone's busy. We know you guys are busy. So let's talk to us about not just marketing strategy, but we can market on your behalf as well. One of our newer services that we're seeing tremendous success with, we know how to market these events, from before, during, and after. So we're here to help you with that. Again, you have your team here. So reach out to your team at Platform Q Education. If you don't reach out to us, we're going to reach out to you to help fill in those gaps. And that's all I have on my side here. Again, here's my email address. If anyone has any questions at any time, do not hesitate to reach out to me and my team, and we're happy to help. Gil, any last thoughts?
No, thank you all for taking the time today. Like Mike said, we'll be in touch if you're looking for ways to round out your strategies. Our team is ready to support and ready to help with making sure you're getting the most conversion and yield throughout the process, right? So right now we're really focused on making sure that the students have gone through the funnel are going to stay there and stay with you through enrollment. But we're also now in that time of year where we have to think about how can we get the most out of our demand generation and application completion strategies, right? So thinking through those pieces, that'll be what's next. So keep an eye out for our next webcast. That'll be the next topic we schedule. We'll be really thinking about how we take these types of strategies and tactics and put them towards getting more from the top of your funnel down to the middle. So thank you all so much. We appreciate you taking the time today, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, everyone.